So I grew up partially above Castaic Lake in Southern California. So with the wildfires, I used to watch the helicopters come down and grab all of the water to go out and do the
Uh,
wildfires. So this movie is fascinating to me because I used to watch that part of wildfires. So for you as co-director and star and everything, what was it about this movie and kind of bringing in all of these true stories about wildfires in particular that inspired you for a movie like On Fire in particular?
well, the script came to me, and I just really connected with it. I love popcorn movies, but I also love movies that have some substance and have some messaging in there, and also can help share stories. And so for me, it really hit home with all the fires that were in the news as of late. But even back then, there was so many fires in the news. So I thought, this is a prevalent story that just keeps happening. And this movie kind of drops you into experience what the victims are going through. So you better understand, have compassion, so that maybe we can come together, take a pause, and figure out a way to solve the bigger issue. I don't know what that solve is, but I know, as a human race, we've come together to solve bigger ones. So I know if we put our minds to it, we could solve this one. But I also like that it gave tribute to firefighters. It shared what the heroism of what a 911 operator goes through, because they're not the ones going into the burning buildings or the first on the line of fire, but their jobs are very stressful, and they have someone else's life on the other end of their phone. So it takes immense focus, a lot of concentration, a lot of know-how to help calm them, to help guide people. So this movie in particular has a whole story arc of a 911 operator. She's new on the job, and then she's able, at first in the sleepy town, she's at ground zero and she's being inundated, and you get to see the stress that these people go through on both ends, and she feels like she's failing miserably, and then she's able to connect with this one family and guide them. And so I really think that that's a really beautiful arc and a spotlight to shine on their heroism and courageousness. So we could dedicate the movies to first responders, to firefighters, to conservationists who are trying to protect our lands, to victims that have gone through this. It's inspired by stories of those victims, and it's an amalgamation of a few different stories. And we try to do it in an entertaining way that also doesn't feel like it's uh, thumping people over the head with messaging, but under the umbrella of this entertaining family survival drama.
And it is it's one of those movies where it's just nonstop, which it does happen with a fire where it feels like just a
Yeah,
bombardment of like get out of this area, get out of this area. Like the minute like there's one scene with the propane tank where it's just like,
yeah.
no, just get it, just like go somewhere else. I don't know where you can go, just go somewhere else. When you are kind of like it does have that constant speed of like once you hit a certain point in this movie, you're just it's nonstop running. As an actor and a co-director, what how is that like trying to find that balance between like the beginning of this movie, which is kind of a family drama, like you see
Mm.
their struggles and like you learn a lot about them, and to get into then that fast pace of like running through the wilderness just trying to survive.
Yeah, it was it's a tricky one to carve out for sure, because an early cut of this movie, there it was all, they didn't they kind of got into the family too quickly, and then got into the fire too quickly, and then it was like action music wall to wall, and it just felt like you didn't really connect with that family, so that you had no journey to go on. So I really worked hard with Nick to go in there and carve out that story, so that you could understand this family. When I look at that family, I'm like, that's a family I know. You know what I mean? They're this dad's got, he's trying to keep his family together. He's got a wife who's pregnant, 8 months pregnant, a son who's going to college. I have a 1 year old, and I have a kid in college. His dad's sick, and he's paying his medical bills, and he's got a new job, and he's trying to survive, and just trying to survive, financially. And then they're thrust into this harrowing evening of just trying to survive the night, and not financially, but in a way of like your life. Him and his family's lives are literally on the line. And so by the end of that journey, I think my character comes to realize that if he has his family, he's okay. He has everything. So to me, that alone is a beautiful takeaway in a movie, and watching that family grow through it, and lean on each other. A lot of times in these movies, the dad is the one who's leading everybody to safety, and in this movie he's doing the best he can, but there are moments where each family member, my Fiona Durf's character, she's 8 months pregnant, is the biggest hero to me because she's running through this woods with 8 months pregnant, and I know what it's like to have a wife who's pregnant, and that's hard enough. And then you have my son, played by Asher Angel. He's an incredible actor. He's in the Shazam movies, and Lance Henriksen. But to watch each of us have heroic moments and lift each other up, it's a beautiful messaging of like, that's what family's for. They're there to lift each other up when the other ones feel like they can't go on anymore. And you feel that rhythm through the movie of each character having this moment of, can I go on? And the other ones lift them up. So underneath that umbrella, like I said, there's some really wonderful takeaways. It's the family journey. It's a little bit of faith where you gotta, when you're in a struggle like that, you find faith really quickly, because you got to look to a higher power to go, please help me through this. So there's some of that. There's dedication to the firefighters and the 911 operators, like I said, and we try to leave off on messaging of hope at the end, because too many times these type of movies leave off in gloom and despair. And we had enough of that in the movie. We have enough of that in the news, and we wanted to leave off with a message of like, we can come together and fix this, and a little messaging of rebirth. Let's regroup and have some rebirth in how we deal with this. So carving out all of those, rhythms, so it's not all just one bombardment of action, but it's really a story where you have an emotional journey. So it was important to set up the family so you feel for them and understand their peril. So when you're going through the movie with them, you want to be on that ride with them. You want them to be okay. And then as a co-director, I really wanted the audience to feel like they were part of that family, like you're in it with them. And when I watched the movie with the audience members, they're on the edge of their seats. They feel that, what those characters are feeling. And so it excites me to get them to understand how dangerous it is. And also a little bit of a cautionary tale. My character in the movie is like, oh, the fire's all the way across the gorge, not going to come towards us. And then with a shift of a wind, like it could be at your doorstep. And too many times people want to stay by, protect their stuff, and there's a great line that always sticks with me from this movie. I say to my son, things can be replaced, but people can't. And that's important to learn. I know my family went through Hurricane Sandy, and I remember saying to them, they were closest to the beach, and I said, you should go to a hotel, you should get out. And they said, oh, don't worry, it doesn't really come. They always make a bigger deal out of it in the news, and their whole basement got flooded. Like the door burst open, and somebody was downstairs, and they could have really got hurt. Thankfully, they weren't. But it seems like, it's a cautionary tale here for if you get emergency alert, if people are saying evacuate, do it. Their stuff will be okay. And if it's not, that's okay too. Just try to get out, and better to be safe than sorry.
Yeah, and it is interesting. I grew up in the 90s. I'm a millennial. And so I grew up with movies like, the Tommy Lee Jones. I can't remember the name of it, but the one with like the volcano that erupted. And it was like, I remember watching it all the time as a kid. And like the one with Pierce Brosnan where like the lava was coming up in the lake. And I remember all those like disaster movies that and Twister and things like that don't really exist anymore. But now with like climate change and everything, do you think movies like On Fire are going to make a resurgence, because they are all cautionary tales and they do tell us like how we need to be paying attention to the weather patterns and how we need to kind of react, but we stopped making them for some reason for like 20 years?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, listen, everything happens in waves. It'd be cool if my movie led the way to a bunch of new ones. I mean, I love those types of movies too. I grew up with those movies, and also even further back, there were, the Poseidon Adventure, and so many of those disaster movies that are fun to watch. So we tried to make it a watch that's entertaining, in a sense that kind of keeps you on the edge of your seats, but at the same time, it was important to make sure that there was a lot of takeaways underneath that, because certainly we don't want to exploit an issue for entertainment, at all. and we really didn't need this movie to bring attention to something that's so prevalent in the news already. So for me, it was more about putting a spotlight on, the heroism of the 911 operators, the celebrating firefighters, celebrating the first responders, and watching and firsthand being dropped into what this families experienced, like just a couple of weeks ago or a month ago in Hawaii. Like you saw people in the oceans, and like you see the footage and you hear about it and your heart goes out to people, and there's tons of compassion. But then it kind of dies out in the news, and then it happens again. In a few weeks it'll happen again, or a month it'll happen again, and we have to figure out a way to stop that pattern. So if when you watch this movie, you go, my God, like I felt like that was happening to me and my family. How can we make sure that that never happens? Like I don't that would be a wonderful thing. But there are lots of takeaways under, even like I said, having the takeaway of don't sweat the small stuff. Your family is the most important thing, and you'll be okay. If you got your family and your health, you're a rich man. So there's tons of little takeaways within that entertaining bigger picture. Did you enjoy the movie?
I did. I was just gonna say thank you so much. I really enjoyed it. I did tell Fiona and stuff. I didn't tell you this. I would be remiss. I am a millennial, so every time you were running through the woods, all I could hear was like that Twilight music that was like I kept hearing it, and I was like, I feel like the worst person because I like just kept hearing it. Yeah, but I liked it a lot. Like I was like truly, I told Nick I was like it felt like a horror movie. Like, I was watching it late at night, and like
Yeah.
I was afraid the fire was like gonna jump at me at times. Like I was like holding my cat, just
uh
afraid of fire. But
Well, that's good. Then we did our job because we wanted it to have this feeling of this cautionary tale with horrific moments and horror, and keeping you on the edge of your seats, but then have this feeling of this elation at the end where you feel full of hope and a mixture of emotions. So I'm glad. Hope your cat's okay.
he's good. But thank you so much for talking to me today. I really appreciate
Thank
it.
you so much. Really appreciate you too, Rachel.
Awesome. Thank you. Have a great one. Bye.